Hey,
Hey, happy Friday. Happy
happy
Friday.
Friday.
Made it. How you
We sure
doing?
did. I'm all right. I'm ready.
You ready? Yeah, it's like probably what 41 in Atlanta, so we look about ready.
Yeah, we're definitely ready. I fun fact, I lived for 18 years up north and I moved down here. I chose college to down
Hmm.
here in the south to get away from the cold, but
Yeah, I'm the majority of my life is still northern, but I'm on the cusp of having been here about 14 years from not experiencing some really nasty winter weather on the regular during this season. But it's definitely coming, and I think Mo- most everywhere in the country is affected almost.
yeah, this is true. Well, it is Friday, January 23rd. I'm Eric
It is.
Sharp.
I'm Justin Dilly, wrapped in a blanket.
Yeah, so the breaking news of the week is that this crazy winter weather's coming. Oh,
It is coming, and it's kind of ironic or coincidental, I guess, not ironic. Today is also National Snow Plow Hockey Day.
this makes sense for those who are up north. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. This is not a heated rivalry kind of thing. So this is actual national holiday that that I think people kind of made as a joke because if you are from the north or you get a lot of snow, what happens when snow plows go by and the snow's pretty high?
You create the world's greatest snowbanks.
Yeah, and you also can take out a few mailboxes along the road. So for our friends that don't live in apartment communities, right? They don't have mail rooms. They have these boxes on the actual street, and people put mail into them. And these plows can then hit those said boxes, and therefore somebody decided let's make a little game of it because it's going to happen anyway, and that's how we have this holiday.
This makes sense. Well, and obviously here in the Sun Belt, we're not used to this kind of weather. So it's nice to see that our friends down south are prepping quite well for this.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Pensacola, Florida. Where they're salting the roads.
Salting the road, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure they're using margarita salt actually.
Now, if that was Atlanta, that would be one of the four trucks that they have to
Yes.
salt the roads.
Atlanta has to rent trucks. Although I think after the snow apocalypse, we
They've
got smart.
increased it, but it's not amazing. It's not amazing.
This is true.
But a lot of folks, if you're probably the real seriousness of all this is if you're working on site, you're having to scramble this week, especially if you're in an area that isn't used to snow or ice or cold weather. With in the southern states, right? The fear is going to be power outages. So having resources available to residents, and this is sort of when everybody on site sort of does everything during these times, right? There's going to be people that maybe can't get to work, so the people might maybe living on site have to step up and do something they don't typically do, and for all those folks that are there, we are thinking of you, and hopefully the companies you work for celebrate you when you get through this successfully, which hopefully everyone will.
Yeah. Well, these are some great reminders here, by the way. Obviously, your maintenance teams have been hard at work getting ready.
Yeah.
But for those who are down south here, we're not used to this kind of stuff,
Hmm.
right? So we're
Yeah.
getting ready a little later than normal, maybe.
Yeah, and I think keeping communication with again your residents, that's the key, because again if you're not used to this, some reminders of how to deal with icy weather, of how to deal with less bad conditions is important. And we know that properties have already been doing this, and companies and teams have already been talking about this. So
Well, awesome.
all
Well,
right.
look, this week has had a lot to do. It was technically a short week for some.
A little shorter.
There was Martin Luther King Day on Monday,
Yes,
and
there was.
Martin Luther King Jr. Day, excuse me. So there's some very important things that happened after the fact. from Martin Luther King's legacy. We just wanted to bring a reminder to what changed thanks to Martin Luther King's legacy.
Yeah, this the Fair Housing Act exists because of him. It was
And
signed
lots
into
of
law.
other people, of course, who
Right,
helped. But
right. But if he wasn't part of it, it wouldn't have probably came when it did. It was signed into law just a few days after his assassination. So there's that particular connection. And there are seven, if we don't remember, I know people on site probably remember very well. There are seven federally protected classes: race, color, religion, sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, national origin, familial status, and disability. And then states and cities can also add more upon additional to that federal kind of protection.
yeah. So ultimately, there still is a lot more work to be done. I think there's a lot of proponents that still say that the act that was passed on April 4th, 1968, literally 1 week, or sorry, April 11th,
Yes,
1968. He was assassinated on April 4th. A lot of people would say that there's a lot more work to be done, but there's only so much that politicians are willing to do. Um, so it is very important that we keep pushing forward on this and abiding by the laws. Yeah.
right. And we saw in the industry, obviously, this is a huge thing because we're in the industry of housing. So this is an important thing. So a lot of companies were off on Monday. There was a lot of posts, a lot of quotes from MLK, and there were some folks that also called out saying, "Hey, you know what? Don't post a quote on Monday. Just if you're going to post it, live that way every single day." And so there was a few
Yeah.
folks kind of putting that out there. So we are in the industry of housing justice as a business. So great, great to include that, Eric.
Sure. And now we're going to swing over to some other news here. So Trump has been in the process of banning institutional housing. On Tuesday he signed a presidential action. He signed a uh, basically a document saying, "Hey, Wall Street, you need to stop screwing over Main Street." Uh, but really, there's a lot to be desired here, and really, this just punted the ball down the field and requires his team to do the rest of the work. So essentially, there's an executive order that he did, and there's a link that you can see here by scanning this QR code.
Mhm.
But some of what he said is really not defined yet. For example, large institutional investor is not yet defined. He actually asked his team to define it
Right,
within 30 days of signing this act. So, even very similar to what Trump does. This is his MO. He basically says, "Hey, we need to stop doing this," signs an executive order, and then hopes and prays that his team figures out the rest of the details later. Um, Ultimately, this doesn't ban institutional home buying. What they're trying to do is set federal policy against making purchases with guidance, antitrust reviews, and like legislative recommendations because they want to limit the purchases moving forward. So, for
right,
example, that's looking at the federal levers that they're able to pull. In this case, they're trying to discourage institutional buying. So they're instructing agencies to prevent federal programs like government financing or insuring or securitizing to help prevent those acquisitions.
right. And it will be interesting to see where that line is drawn, how that line is
Yeah.
drawn. I know, Jay Parsons mentioned one of the questions you referenced. He actually kind of recapped two big open questions. His post kind of goes over some of the highlights and some of the big questions. But in the it's complicated, right? Because does it really help in the law in our current economy if we're talking about fair housing? Is this going to be a great step for people to buy, or is some of these institutional um, purchases, do we need those in our society? Because they actually contribute to fair and equitable housing, giving actually more houses to people. So it's like if we stop a project, a Section 8 project from being built, is that actually helping us in the end? So there's like there's a lot of nuance, and we'll have to see how it pans out, I guess.
Yeah. Look, the big question I have is what happens to current portfolios, right? Do they have to get rid of them? What if you're in the middle of a large purchase, a large asset purchase? I mean, what
Mhm.
seems to be as a part of this executive order is that, there's a review process for the Attorney General and the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, to review any of these substantial acquisitions. So, what if you're midway through an acquisition? Are you subject to this, or do you get grandfathered in? How does that work? We don't know, but we'll find out more in the next 30 days. We'll keep you abreast on this.
Yeah, very good
All
stuff.
right. And I owe us an image for this, which is coming in here. Oh, just shortly here. I totally have the image. Nope, don't want that one. Oh, how about this one? There we go.
The suspense is killing us, Eric.
The suspense is killing us. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about prop tech. The prop tech war is thesis driven. The mind of Brad Hargraves and probably his staff. Really took a slice out of what we've all been thinking over the last few months and years. There's some newcomers on the block, but there's starting to be some jostling for your commitment room.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting, and I'll ignore these look like Vecna. If you're a Stranger Things, like they're a little Vecna with like the weird little like, I guess that's hair. Is that supposed to be hair or
I mean,
something?
I was gonna say Dragon Ball Z and Frieza, but yeah, sure. Yeah.
um, but I think Brad does a good job in that thesis driven article. Kind of setting up the landscape of how we got here, which is for a very long time, prop tech was layered on top of, PMS systems.
Yeah.
And I think it was always sort of, hey, I'll stay on this side of this. You stay on that side of that. I'll stay on this side of this. I'll stay. So the only thing that you would quote unquote infringe on would be the big PMS system that was so integrated into the company that there was no real risk of kind of attrition or anything in that respect. Now you're having some of these add-ons to become like full-blown components and be relied on in a totally different way. And so now it's not just latching onto your core PMS system, but now it's taking on and encroaching into these other spots where it's like, oh, I'm not going to need this particular piece anymore. And so you're starting to expand and not just be point solution, but be more of an integrated platform. Even though it's a niche platform, it's an integrated platform. And it's not, the two that they're referenced in the article, which is Elise AI and Funnel. That's definitely a great example, but there's plenty of them out there, and there's probably just going to be more.
Yeah. So a couple follow-ups on this. I think what was interesting is, Tyler Christensen from Funnel had some comments on this, and the RealPage, it's a newly minted CEO of RealPage, Dirk Wakeham, chimed in quite thoughtfully, and you can see his post on his page. But I think that's great when you have a CEO of a massive property management company chiming in on this conversation. That's good. I think it is a great conversation to have because prop tech is forcing change, and the current incumbents are required to recognize the new competition. And for example, I have an anonymous employee from Funnel. I gathered some feedback, and they said that ultimately Funnel's priority is really that AI is a tool for humans, and it's going to help the agents do their job more efficiently and effectively, because it's helping fill that gap.
Yeah.
that they felt they haven't had enough time, to get their hands on something, right? I mean, oftentimes you and I feel it at work where it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much left to do this week.
Mm.
There's so many more things I have to get done. Like, there's just no way I'm going to get it all done based on the current priority list and the objectives and the value streams of the company, right? Well, that's where AI comes in. And that's where Funnel wants to be that partner.
Right.
And
And
likely Elise AI wants to be the partner as well.
well, I'm going to play, doubles, devil advocate is I don't know of a company that isn't saying that they want their AI to be the human to like
Yeah.
everyone's kind of saying that. It's just I think it's in the how. And it's not that one how is better than the other how, but it really comes down to what your thing is, what you're building. I think I think at one time you could kind of go to the stores, you could kind of buy these products, and you were like, okay, if I'm going with product A, I'm more detail oriented. If I'm going with product B, I'm now more user minded. If I'm going with product C, I'm more integration minded. Well, now everyone's kind of doing all of these at some positive level. And so it's sort of like, what do you want to build, and how does your team work, and what nuance makes the best sense for you? And so the the decision becomes more complicated, but also more like the case studies don't. It's rare that you're going to find case studies that match your own company as more and more, right? We're going to see like, oh, I need to know if it works for me, and I have to build this case study with my technology partners.
Yeah. Well said. As you were talking, I was thinking about, I was totally paying attention, but
Oh
I was thinking
yeah,
about,
yeah.
like you say, we want human in the loop, right? And no one wants AI to be like the dominant thing at this point. Arguably, this is a time where someone could begin to create, an AI only brokerage, an AI only property management company. I mean, my big take on this is that within the next 3 years, we'll probably see the first AI only property management company. I don't think it will be institutional, of course, because that's a massive thing to do. But I think you're likely to find a small or medium sized organization completely revamp everything from the inside out after learning and growing. We've had people on like Ron Kutas, who last week, who talked about how they're doing lots of things internally. He's not doing it to get rid of employees. He's doing it because he just wants to operationally make things work better so that he can grow the business and ultimately cut out the fat that
Mm-hmm.
anyone wants to cut out of a business.
Yeah.
But at some point within the next, I think 3 years, if not less, we'll see we'll see massive property management companies in terms of the assets under management, but the staff will be so small and minuscule. It will be incredible for us to see, 5 team companies, running $1 billion in assets.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
possible. That's my big prediction for you.
Yeah, I think it is possible. I think there's a lot of variables into what that I think some asset classes and some markets and some certain things probably lend itself more to that than others. My 2 cents on it, but I think generally I think there's going to be a shift in that direction. We're going to see some of that pop up. I agree. Okay. Well, this was not a slow week.
Yeah.
I think I think we covered a lot of things in the recap, but there's been a lot going on. Speaking of funnel, they ZRS announced that they've rolled out funnel and their partnership for their leasing and their AI solutions. So in the prop tech wars, I don't know if they were comparing it with Elise AI, but in this case, Funnel One partnering with ZRS, and ZRS has a good history of kind of early adoption and kind of being at the forefront of how they are using technology.
Awesome.
Yeah. Nice little shout out over here to Brandon Armstead, his team. It's a Gray Star property. They are 92% leased. And I know we see some of these things all the time and people, buy balloons and all that stuff. It's important to call it out because those are the things that make that make all the things go, right? People can do events, or people can, go to, sales kickoffs or do all this stuff. But honestly, it doesn't happen unless people rent apartments.
Yeah.
Doesn't none of it happens.
Don't forget who really pays the bills here, folks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if you saw this. There's been a lot of these market recaps from 2025, but Cushman and Wakefield dropped theirs. There's obviously one in multifamily, but there's also an office one, a retail one, probably another one I missed. But you could go through and look at those reports. They're available to download.
Awesome. And then what's up with Billy and Grain?
Yeah, they this week they announced an integration partnership. So they now integrate. The goal there is to provide some data, which is with each other, so that I have to go back and look because I just blanked on what it was. But they now are integrating and partnering to give cost analysis data over to the business.
Yeah, awesome. Billy is the pun intended with a goat here. It's a billing service. They help with handle all your billing needs, unlocking revenue across your entire portfolio. I'm assuming it helps you, especially with Ingrain, looking at the maps. They're out there. You can kind of see visually where you're losing the most money.
Yeah.
Very helpful. What else we got here? Let's see.
A few more things. Yeah. So Blueprints dropped a report. The Blueprint organization, they have a conference coming up this year. They're starting to get ready for that. They did drop a report on the most overlooked operational system in our industry, which is the elevator.
The elevator, which is how many elevator companies are out there, right? 2, 3?
Well, I think in terms of what, just manufacturer?
Yeah.
There's not many. But then you have to add on all the technology behind it in terms of access control. And that's a whole other level, right? Of like who can go where, when, if you're dealing with, mixed use spaces, I can go up to, anyone can go up to these retail spots, but then for the residential and office, it gets pretty complicated. And there's a huge database, right, of all the comings and goings. So it was a very, very fascinating report.
Interesting.
Yeah. We don't talk about them a lot, right? Because I don't know. Can you Google real quick how old the elevator is? It's an old invention. It's old innovation. Yeah, it's old.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. Well, Otis, obviously, 1854 at the New York's World Fair.
Okay, there we go. Yep. So it had been around a long time. So I think even though as the technology evolves, sometimes doesn't get discussed, as often on the forefront. Like we're not going to, there aren't many panels at like technology conferences on the latest in elevator innovation. It's something that we kind of assume and deal with, but it's a good thing to make sure that your operational teams, security teams, all of that are kind of involved when you're, redoing or installing elevators and paying attention to that particular system.
Because you don't want to get stuck in an elevator. Definitely not with Jen Carter. No.
Did that happen to you?
She'll talk your ear off. No, but she got stuck.
I know. I remember she did. I just don't remember. I remember she talked about it forever.
I think it was NAA Assembly delegates here in Atlanta. She got stuck in an elevator. Yeah.
The danger of conferences.
Yes.
Now, to a salesperson, that's great. They're like, what company are you from?
Yeah. Oh, and your phone doesn't work? Excellent.
I have handouts. There you go.
Oh man.
Finally, somebody that's in the kind of some thought leadership, Willowens. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Willowens Mezelian. You are talking a lot on LinkedIn about us building buildings in the industry, but really we're building more than that. We're building futures, we're building communities, we're building connection. And if you aren't following him, follow him. Are we dropping a name in, Eric? I see you doing stuff.
No, I was thinking about doing it, but no, it's fine. You should Google it.
Google him.
Yeah,
He's on LinkedIn. Willowins Mazalian. Some
yep,
good
yep,
stuff.
yeah. What else are we? I think we're almost done here.
We're basically done. You know, there's been a lot of prep. You know, if you're going to, I know Eric, you're not slated to try to deal if your flight is canceled.
I am not. Unfortunately, I am not. We're doing that. Yeah, we're playing the airplane game here. So my wife is currently out of town, so I will not be attending the annual meeting.
Does she have to come back during the storm or after the storm?
She'll be back at the end of the storm on Monday evening. So the
Okay.
beauty of that is that she's really gonna miss hopefully everything, all the issues. Um, it's crazy how serendipity works there. But yeah, safe travels, of course, to everyone going out there.
Yeah, going out there or going anywhere, you know, client visits, anything you had planned, we'll see what happens. I think some people will make it fine. Some people will be delayed or canceled. Some people will decide, you know, the Northeast is going to get hit pretty hard. So there's going to probably be people that'll say, I'm not going to even try to leave my, you know, my home or my apartment.
Don't do it. Don't leave.
Yeah. And if you get snowed in, you definitely can't.
But we don't get snowed in like these guys, though.
Let's see.
Quite loud.
Very European.
Well, that's a moment of wonder.
So that's supposedly the peninsula of Russia, which is called Kamchatka, but that wasn't real.
Oh,
This
this
is
is
real. Fake news has become more of a thing with AI. It's just I love AI. AI is great, but you have to do the work and find out what's real. This looks a little bit more like Massachusetts. I've been in snow like this before. It's not great, though. It's not great.
I have too, but only a handful of times. Yeah. Wow.
Well, hope people avoid this at most cost and stay warm and safe this weekend.
Yes. Stay warm, stay safe, and see you next week.